Hello and welcome to my channel. This is the final installment of the Guardian series. If you have missed the other 4 episodes, there is a card in the top right hand corner of the screen to the whole series. In part 1, we covered the profession's archetype, history, and overall game style. In part 2, we looked at its unique abilities and utility slot skills. In part 3, its current weapons and their mechanics. Part 4 was dedicated to the profession's specializations and currently viable builds for each game type. Here in Part 5, we showcase your Guardians in a Fashion Wars bonanza, and veteran players from the Guild Wars 2 Reddit community share with you their hard-won insights, tips and opinions. There will be timestamps in the description listing everyone who contributed, be it with images or advice. The credits will be filled with the names of everyone who shared, commented, and contributed to the conversation in the creation of this final episode. It's the least I can do. Now I want to stress, the advice and commentary shared here is opinion, reflecting the individual player's personal experiences and preferences. There will be contradictory statements, and the best thing you can do as a new player is to hear them out and then jump into the game yourself and see what you think. Please bear all this in mind and use the comment section to brainstorm and debate. Marcus of Queensberry rules apply, no hitting below the belt, and let the golden rule be your guide. Caveats firmly in place, let's kick back, popcorn in hand, and enjoy the show. Red Ram 003. The Guardian is not a paladin or a defender. You will defend people with some skills, but you are not a tanker, nor do you play a bulk role. You have one of the lowest hit pools in the game and will have to survive using skill synergy and blocks. The first thing a new player should do is to invest hero points in the shout skills line. Invest your first trait lines in zeal and second in honor. Select the honorable staff and pure of voice traits. Use staff as your weapon of exploration. Your first gear set can be whatever you like, but I recommend greatsword and or sword main. If you have trouble in melee, use scepter. Don't bother with hammer for now, I personally think it's slow. Don't gear your Guardian with defensive stats. Do not use your virtues unless you are in extreme danger, but keep them unspent for their passive bonuses. Valfalso. The Guardian as a profession is very misleading right now with its name, since later on in Heart of Thorns it becomes a dragon hunter. This elite spec is meta and a DPS class, so you will not be doing a lot of guarding anytime soon. Aemilia. My number 1 piece of advice for new players is not to ignore the hammer. That was a mistake I made as a noob because the slow attacks put me off. Because of that, I suffered from a lack of crowd control and permanent protection. The lack of crowd control frustrated me so much, I went and I made a Reaper. These days, my Dragon Hunter runs with hammer and scepter shield for swapping. Another major issue with base Guardian is its lack of ranged options compared to other classes. To counter this, Scepter should be equipped as your main hand weapon, along with the Purging Flames utility skill. Purging Flames is one of my favourite skills as it's ranged and damages, cures conditions, and is a fire field for might building. Anwn. The number 1 thing I would tell new Guardians is you are not a tank. You're an instrument of divine vengeance, not a Peace Corps light worker in a tin can. Get out there and slay the wicked. Tareos. My advice to new players is to die a lot so they know their limitations. We're not tanky, just difficult to kill due to our active defences. Starting a Guardian from scratch with no tomes. Now I will intercede here for a moment to say that tomes are used in-game to level instantly and can be used to reach match level in a matter of moments. So, back to the start of the guide. Starting a Guardian from scratch with no tomes, you should unlock Shouts and Consecrations first. They are good for the early game PvE. I recommend unlocking Spirit Weapons last unless you are struggling in the open world. When you've leveled up and unlocked your specializations, the Valor and Honor lines are preferred in PvE for their loot stick builds, and you'll grant might to allies, which in turn also heals you. So if you're lazy and want to group farm centaurs in the Harathi hinterlands for lots of experience and tier 4 mats with minimal effort, this build is great. DerSchwobee. If you want to have the supporty, healing feeling of the Guardian without being flamed, try the World v World game mode. The Guardian is the core of any big-scale group and supports its party with boons, healing, condition cleanse, and crowd control. Sleeper. One of the most important things to learn as a Guardian is how to use Aegis to protect your team from big hits. You have to get good at recognizing the skill animations of a big incoming hit and cast your Area of Effect Aegis ability or abilities just before they land. This is similar to the Mesmer learning how to use Area of Effect Distortion for the same purpose. Get good at that and you'll become an even better asset for your team. It is good to learn how to leap further also by using Greatsword Skill 3 and weapon swapping near the end of your leap. Normally, if you're travelling the full range but haven't landed yet using the skill will stop you midair and you will fall to the ground like a stone. But if you weapon swap at the last moment before stopping in midair, you will keep going with your momentum till you land naturally. Icy Teas. The Guardian has a low health pool, very much in the same boat as the Thief or the Elementalist. Do get the Dragon Hunter's specialization right away, as its traps are quite strong, making for very nice open world quality of life. This means getting the Heart of Thorns expansion, shameless plug to referral links below. Scepter Torch is quite fun and strong for either power or condition builds, depending on your gearing stats and traits. Guardians are mainly valued for group quality of life because of its Aegis, Reflex and Stun Breakers. They're also high damage. Make your Guardian a human or a Anwn. This is almost a rule. Asgaeta. As others have said, do not think of yourself as a healer or a tank. One thing you might not learn as fast as playing other classes is how to dodge effectively. That's because Guardians have lots of block and blinds that let you just stand there and take a few extra hits. I urge you not to be lazy and to learn to read the enemy's attack telegraphs and how to time dodges to do so. It makes a big difference when you get into group situations like fractals and raids. While you don't want to try being a dedicated healer or tank, you can be very effective at mitigating damage even while dishing it out. Guardians have pretty easy attack rotations and can spare a glance at allies' health pools and use body block Aegis for squishy teammates. This is what makes the class satisfying to me. Sayrek. In player versus player, please do not just stand on a spot and place your traps. Any good player will dodge through them and counter you like that. DrKlukoff. You are not a tank paladin healer. The Guardian description makes a lot of new players, myself included, when I first rolled one, think it's some sort of tanky healer class. Well, it can be, I suppose, but even a shout warrior could probably heal better than a Guardian. Seosert. The staff, or loot stick, is fantastic for collecting drops in Zerg type content. Guardians have low hit pools, with Aegis being the mechanic that makes up for this. But it doesn't really. Since Heart of Thorns, there has been a lot of unblockable attacks that go through Aegis. There isn't really a strong role-based system in Guild Wars 2, and most players end up being damage. Guardian is no exception to that. Shield offers little in defensive capacity. It actually has no melee block in the traditional sense. It does offer Aegis and projectile defense, but Aegis is a one-time defense and it's better to reflect instead of absorb if possible. Guardian is one of the few classes that has permanent swiftness using retreat and staff skill 3. Condition Guardian isn't better than power, at least not for now. Akunii. Staff can be used occasionally if your group lacks might or for group speed or between trash groups. Since you usually just need a single weapon in normal PvE encounters, having it as a second weapon won't hamper you much. It's not just a loot stick, it's just situational. The same goes for the Burn Guardian. It's actually not that bad and can pull some DPS weight, and you look quite badass. Mordrimbor. Well, I've been a Guardian since beta, so I guess I can share my way of playing it. Weapons. There is one weapon you will not use in an actual fight. This weapon is a staff. Don't ever use the staff in a real fight. You will see many people recommending the Guardian staff and calling it the loot stick. These people are referring to instances where you are running with a large Zerg farming mobs. In this case, the mobs die so quickly to the number of players that using the most effective weapon is not necessary. Thus, the area of effect auto attack of staff will tag or grant kills for as many mobs as possible, granting you more loot drops. This is the only time you should use staff, in my opinion. Two-handed weapons. Now that the staff is addressed, we can move on to the other two-handed weapons, Greatsword and Hammer. These are both fine choices, but there is a distinction to be made. Hammer is slow, though powerful and good for defense, as the auto attack will grant pulsing protection to your whole party. However, this means in lighter content like open world, it may not be the most satisfying choice, as nothing you fight will really survive long enough for the hammer to shine, and running between mobs swinging the slow hammer can start to make you feel like a tortoise chasing a hare. Greatsword, on the other hand, is a fast burst weapon with good area of effect damage. Greatsword will be a solid choice for the beginner of the game and will remain relevant all the way through to the most difficult endgame, so while both weapons are good, Hammer will really only feel good in the endgame, whilst Greatsword will shine wherever you go. One-handed weapons. You can't go wrong here, though there is one notable difference with one weapon. Mace and sword are both great choices for melee damage. Mace offers a little more defense, giving you an area of effect block and some regeneration on symbols, and a small heal on auto attack. Sword is a more offensively geared, with projectile attack, fury on symbol, and a triple hit auto attack finisher. Both work just fine in any combat, so it's up to your preference. Scepter is the third, but also your only ranged one-handed weapon. It provides high damage to big enemies due to how its symbol attack works. Play around with all these three to see which one you like. Offhand weapons. Again, you have three choices. Two of them are offensive in nature. Focus gives you a block skill that can turn into a blast finisher and bouncing ray attack. Torch gives you a flamethrower attack that can cleanse conditions on allies and a big fireball attack. Shield is the defensive option and can grant protection and aegis to you and your allies, or create a moving dome that blocks missiles and can be detonated for healing. None of them are terribly impactful in anything short of the very hardest endgame content, so just use what you like using. I'm not going to get into the intricacies of trait lines and whatnot. I'm mainly going to address stats. There are 4 ways you can build a Guardian, but only one of them really works. I'll explain. The healer. Whoa, 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 I don't know what you're saying. Some people will look at the Guardian with its supportive abilities and nice blue glow and think, I'm a healer. Whilst I can't fault them for the impression, the truth is that the Guardian really has poor healing skills available to it. Most of its healing is tailored towards self-healing, and even the few group heals that it gets are scaled for the Guardian's low health pool, and therefore not super impactful towards high health characters. The stats you'll see that push towards a healing build are plus healing and concentration. Avoid these stats for your own good, as well as any runes, sigils, or other pieces of gear that seem orientated towards the healing role. There is only one dedicated healing class in Guild Wars 2, and you are not it. The tank. Again, an easy mistake to make, and honestly almost correct, with all the Guardian's substantial sustain abilities, block abilities, invulnerability abilities, etc., plus heavy plate. It's easy to scream tank. The truth is, tanks aren't useful in Guild Wars 2 outside of raids, and in a raid a Guardian cannot tank effectively enough to be worth it. You won't see raids for a long time, and when you do get there, there will be some lightweight armor caster tanking for you. Don't worry about it, just accept it. Stats orientated towards tanking are toughness, vitality. You don't want those stats. A little bit of toughness can be fine if you need it, especially whilst leveling, but vitality actually makes the Guardians squishier by messing with the ratio of their max health that their healing can recover from. Embrace the low health minimum. It helps you. The Burning Guardian. Guardian has access to one damage dealing condition, burn. There is one thing you will notice about other classes that deal damage through conditions. They have multiple damage dealing conditions. Burn doesn't have the many resources of application that bleeds do, and you just won't set enough things on fire to really make it work. Don't focus on conditions. Burns are a nice thing to have happen incidentally. If you're making them your focus, you will lose damage. The stats focused on conditions are condition damage and expertise. Avoid these no matter what. They don't help the Guardian. The direct damage Guardian. This is what we come to. Somewhat ironically, the plate-wearing, defensive ability-laden Guardian is one of the best damage dealers in the game. You have great area of effect potential, good single target, and good abilities to buff your personal damage. This is what you want to be getting familiar with, as it will not only make the early game easier, it will be what you run at endgame. Stats for this build are power, precision, and ferocity. Stack on these bad boys and feel the power. Tactics. The one thing you have that makes the Guardian unique in combat is your virtues. These are the F1 to F3 skills above your weapon bar. They all do various things you will become familiar with, but this rule will always hold true. F1 is for activating, the other two are better off being left passive. F2 and 3 can be used as panic buttons that will save you if you're low on health and your healing is on a recharge, so save them for that. Eventually you'll unlock a trait that will allow you to recharge F1 every kill, at which point you can spam F1 when it's up. But still leave the other two for emergencies. As long as you aren't using them, they're passively generating health for you and blocking occasional attacks. Activating them will only give you a small amount of healing and block, and then they'll go on a long recharge, during which time they do nothing, again for emergencies only. Your skills. These are determined by your weapon for the first 5, and a healing skill of your choice. I recommend Shelter, and then 3 utility skills and 1 elite. The elite do what you want with here. It's not really a big deal, as strange as that sounds. Your utility skills, you will notice, are pretty situational. They should change to reflect what you or your team needs. You are free to keep your favourites on for most content, but accept the fact that there are times you'll need to swap 1 or 2 to make the encounter much easier. Guardians are great at dealing with projectile-heavy fights, where Wall of Reflection and Shield of Courage will be great. Retreat is great for moving around the world and helping your team run past an encounter they don't want to fight. Hallowed Ground can help in fights where crowd control is prevalent. Just become familiar with your skills and bring what is best to the situation. Cranos. I would warn new Guardians of the fact that the class at the endgame is a DPS spec, not the original support character they might have chosen it for, nor the badass tank they might think it is. This is both true for PvE endgame and PvP. Bornislax, the silver-tongued Berserker. My best advice on how to and why you should play Guardian. Guardian is a G in every aspect of the game. The Pimp Cane. Your staff auto-attack hits in a cone in front of you that is wider than Nicki Minaj's plastic butt. It tags everything. Oh, and if enemies really decide to swarm up on you, use Feel My Wrath to spam those rainbowy waves of justice even faster, so you tag and strike down every single one of those walking loot bags. Upgrade your Bitch Slap 3000 with a Permeating Wrath Condi build if you're facing dense waves of enemies. Permeating Wrath spawns extra fiery explosions on every mob you kill, so you can grill while you kill. Traps. Dragon Hunter has area of effect traps that have persistent effects that just shred big groups of enemies. You're basically playing Yu-Gi-Oh! They can send hordes of enemies towards you. You just put all those damn trap cards down and your enemies die in a split second. Your inventory will be full of greens and blues before you can blink. Mobility. Swords can teleport you closer to mobs. Greatsword 3 can leap you over gaps so you can get to those waves of enemies faster. Staff 3 gives swiftness, retreat gives swiftness, save yourself gives swiftness, everything gives swiftness. You want more swiftness? F2 Rings of Resolve to gain even more ground on that slow necro or engineer trying to steal your loot. They're just AFK farming anyway because they just can't keep up with the G. Survivability. One time the challenge might be too much. You're drowning in mobs and you're too tough to call for aid. Why don't you just reflect everything back at your opponent with spiritual energy? Or use one of your 6 skills that gives you Aegis. Or wait, you could block almost everything for multiple seconds using F3 as well. And you have an elite skill that gives you immortal status, resetting that very F3 so you can use it again immediately. Alright, the Elementalist has a staff that offers them a lot of fire air effect, and engineers have a damn flamethrower that's a flipping cool, I know, but the G-Pimp has a 1000-degree spear of justice that you can throw to pull stuff towards you so you don't even have to move your butt to collect loot afterwards. There are plenty of other fun things you can do with a Guardian/Dragon Hunter. I'm sure there will be people commenting on the Scepter DPS builds in raids, and also on how slapping bosses with a hammer makes your team tougher. I don't know either. Guild Wars 2 physics, I guess. Not to mention, the Guardian has always been part of the core class in a decent World v World Zerg, but I'm leaving that for the experts to explain since I'm not super experienced with the Guardian in raids, fractals and World v World. This is Bornislax, your friendly neighbourhood Guardian, signing off. I want to thank everyone who took the time to share their advice and images here today. This is a testament to the community spirit found in the Guild Wars 2 player base. I am proud to not only be a content creator here, but a long-standing member of this brilliant and welcoming community. If you are thinking of joining our merry band of Dragon Slayers, there are referral links in the description below for both the free-to-play game and the Heart of Thorns expansion. When you use these referrals to download or purchase the game, it directly supports my channel, thanks to the generosity of ArenaNet and their partner program. I also want to thank all my patrons whose kindness and support allows me to keep making content for this brilliant game we all love so much. Thank you so much, my friends. So that's the end of the Guardian series. Please let me know what new weapons and specializations you would like to see for our Blue Angels in the next expansion. I'm hoping the Guardian will finally live up to its name and become the tanking frontliner we have all been waiting for. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and a thumbs down if you didn't. And as always, thanks for watching.